Back in session, Your Honor, Laurie Perlman presides. Okay, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. So we're going to be using a microphone as we speak. Hopefully that will help you, Mr. Yamasaki, hear a little better.
I have hard of hearing.
I understand.
I'm just too old. I'm 88 now. So.
If you need any help as we go along with hearing or anything repeated, just let us know. But so again, I'll just get us on the record, and we're on the record now. It is September 7th, 2018 at 12:15. We're in Los Angeles before the Board of Pharmacy. There is a quorum of the board present, and we will be hearing the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Mr. Jun Yamasaki, Junyamasaki, OEH case number 2018090149, pharmacy board number 3482, and I will have the Deputy Attorney General make an appearance.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the board. Desiree Tilliners, Deputy Attorney General on behalf of the people, pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Mr. Yamasaki, if you would just state and spell your name for the record, please.
Oh, you mean just make a short statement?
Yeah, well, if you would say your name and spell it at this time.
Oh, Jun Yamasaki is Jun Yamasaki. A lot of people put an E on it, but that's a female.
Okay. And so I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Tilliners. As we did previously, she'll be giving me some documents.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll go from there.
To expedite the matter, Your Honor, I would like to mark all three exhibits together. The first one is going to be the original petition packet with the accompanying documents. And the second exhibit would be decision after non-adoption, Exhibit 2. And the third is the consent to the electronic recording today.
Thank you, Ms. Tilliners. So I'm going to mark as 1 for identification, the petition packet. 2 for identification is going to be the decision after non-adoption, and 3 for identification, as you mentioned, is the third document, the consent document. So I will admit all of those into evidence at this time. 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. And did you want me to turn things right over to Mr. Yamasaki, or did you want to ask some questions first?
I just have a brief summary
And yes, you may make your opening at this time.
for the record.
Desiree, do you think you should use the microphone?
Is anybody having trouble hearing me?
Mr.
I'm
Yamasaki.
getting better. I can hear you if you're just standing right here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Oh, I have one question. Did you, on that letter of recommendation, the last person that moved to Florida, did you get your confirmation that Lupe got a hold of it?
Yes, we did.
You did?
Thank you.
Thank you. But that was the only outstanding one, if I recall.
Thank you. To summarize the discipline in this case, it was ordered following a first amended accusation against petitioner and 3 other respondents at the time. The allegations against petitioner were for his failure to exercise professional judgment, failure to review patient files prior to dispensing prescriptions, and unprofessional conduct. Essentially, petitioner failed to share a corresponding responsibility with regard to the dispensing or furnishing of controlled substances and or dangerous drugs to patients, which resulted in the aggregate with the others involved in the deaths of 2 patients and drug addiction of another due to overprescribing. Effective January 27, 2014, petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked following an administrative hearing that lasted 16 days. Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of his license so he can have an active license to place on an inactive status to retire by his choice. Petitioner was ordered jointly and severally with the other 3 respondents to pay costs of $57,595.50. There appears to be a balance still due of $20,000, but there's a letter in the petition file dated February 2nd, 2018, where it appears that respondent Daher, D-A-H-E-R, is promising to indemnify the petitioner himself for the costs that remain on the balance. And I'm now prepared to proceed with questions unless Dr. Yamasuki would like to make a statement.
Oh,
Okay, so I'll turn things over to you. Let me swear you in first as a witness. I'm going to swear you in if you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
So would you like to make an opening statement, or would you like to have Ms. Tonners ask you some questions first?
Oh, I think I just make a, can I just read it?
Yes.
Oh, good morning, oh, it's good afternoon, Judge and Counselor and President Law and members of the Pharmacy Board. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to appear before you and to petition for reinstatement of my California license RPH 19983 so that I can properly apply for retired pharmacist license on Form 17A-40 under Section 4200.5 of the Business Pharmacy Code. I do not intend to continue as a registered pharmacist as I have health problems due to a heart attack January 2012, a mild stroke January 31st, 2016, and I gave professional service for 57 years. I am unable to do voluntary service to community due to my age of 88 years and poor health. Excuse me. I worked at J. Scott Drug as a release pharmacist for only 3 to 4 hours per week, so the owner, pharmacist Albert Dahar, could spend more time with his family. That was the period of April through 2007 to December 2011. My license was revoked, although after 16 days of hearing, Judge Daniel Perez proposed decision of only probation of 5 years without any revocation nor suspension. I am sincerely sorry for my mistake as a pharmacist and very remorseful, with apologies for my actions to those patients involved in agency case number 3482. I am sorry for my improper professional action, and in the future I will not let it happen again. And I would like to ask the Pharmacy Board for your understanding and compassion for my special request to have my pharmacy license RPH 19983 to be reinstated so that I can apply for the retired pharmacist license, and only then can I retire my registered pharmacist license status after I get the retired pharmacist status. So you have to have the retired pharmacist, you have to have the regular reinstatement of the regular license before you could apply for the retired pharmacy. Then after that, you can't renew the retired pharmacist license anymore. So I could just, not have to practice pharmacy anymore. I'm just too old and not good health. And I appreciate everybody for taking their time.
Thank you, Mr. Yamasaki. Okay, I'll turn
Do you need
these
a
over.
copy of this statement I made?
With the board? No,
No.
we've got it, we've heard it, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Fellers, did you have any questions?
Your statement, Doctor, addressed most of my questions, but I do have a concern about how the license can be reinstated on a clear basis. If it is reinstated with probation requirements, there would be typically the tolling provision for non-practice. So you would be required to work in order to have an active license. But you're going to retire, so you wouldn't be able to comply with probation. So I don't know how you could be given a reinstated license on a probationary basis. How would you handle that?
You mean I have to go back to work?
They may make you come back.
Shit.
So I just don't want you to be in a position of being on a probationary license and then being found in violation of probation because you're not
In other
working.
words, where you're reinstated, you're on probation,
If that's the typical scenario, yes, sir. Yes, doctor.
you can't just have a.
There's a chance that it could be issued
Yeah.
on a clear basis.
Oh, it could be a temporary probational license.
Correct.
But that could be stopped, stopped as soon as I get make an application to the retired pharmacist license. I could do that.
I don't know if that is within the board's purview.
There are different options, it depends on what the board decides here. It could be a reinstatement, it could be a probationary license, it could be any number of things.
Right.
I just don't want you to be in a position of being in violation of anything. Again,
Yeah, no, I don't.
By
get
accident.
that. No.
I have no more questions. Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Was there anything else, Mr. Yamasaki?
Yeah, I don't want the probational. I'm not going to practice. It's just to get into the retired pharmacy, as you know. I got a copy of it. So.
Okay,
Is that
thank-
possible?
There are many different options, so it certainly is one option that will be considered. And, but the board, as I mentioned, they won't make a decision here today.
Yeah, no, that I understand that.
But we understand, I believe, your
Oh,
position
sure.
on that.
Thank you, Constable,
And,
for the
and,
suggestion.
There may be some board questions, so I'm going to pass the microphone around, starting with Mr. Brooks, and we'll go from there.
I usually don't need a microphone, so but it's the shallow voice that I have. Can you help explain to me first? I'm sorry, Ryan Brooks, public member, and thank you for coming here
I
today.
can.
Ryan Brooks, public member, and thank you for coming here today.
Oh, thank you.
Can you explain to me what the purpose of getting a retired pharmacist license will do?
Well, it's because I served 57 years as a pharmacist, and and this is my first and only violation that I ever had in 57 years.
And what is the purpose of that retired? Is it something to hang on your wall, or does it give you some sort of retirement benefits? Explain.
Yeah, no benefits. It's just maybe status, so that I could have, talk to my
Okay.
friend,
Dignity.
and
Gotcha.
and then because I have a niece that I went to USC in 1956. I graduated, and she's applying for the doctor degree in education, but I kind of hesitated. I told her I couldn't do it because I have a violation problem, and they might check it at I've been a member of the University of Southern California half century because it's over 50 years, and they might check it, and then they say, "Oh, he's not good for recommendation."
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I understand now.
Yeah,
No further
thank you.
questions.
No question. Thanks.
I'm Carlos Sanchez, public member. I'm having a question for you.
Greg Whippy, public member.
It's on.
It is on.
It's on. It's a speaker.
I have a problem with this. And the problem is, this was the most egregious case we had ever seen in 9 years that I've been on the board. I understand that you weren't the main pharmacist in this, but you did dispense numerous.
I can't hear it.
Yes.
You did dispense numerous prescriptions to people, 2 of which died. In this whole case, there were 5 people that died. And you were dispensing to people that were addicts, people that came from 50, 60 miles away, paid cash only. I mean, every possible situation that was negative came up in this case. So, I just have a problem with it. And I understand the reason you want to do this. And I don't want to see is it your niece that you said is applying? I don't want to see your niece get hurt, but, I guess this isn't a question, it's just a statement. I would have a real problem with it. Sorry.
Victor Law, professional member. I just want to ask you, so are you concerned that people look up on the board website that will show your license is revocated, or you just want to see your name under a retired category? So if you just give up your license, it won't even show on the pharmacy board actually after a little while, even though you retire, nobody would even know except your recommendation letter, I think, besides that.
Yeah. I never really told my friends that I had, been. So I want that cleared up before, so I could tell them, in case they ask me. And then in the case of my niece application, and that's very important because she always looked at me as a mentor.
Well, I do have sympathy for you under your circumstances, but I think you should have brought that up at your trial with your attorney, so you would have gotten a lesser sentencing at that point, since you could tell them you only work 3 to 4 hours a day. But based on the seriousness of that case, I mean, that there are consequences for a pharmacist who did something like that. So I think part of the problem with us is you have to accept accountability for what you have done. So if you accept that the penalty, serving that part of the sentence, I don't know how we could change that to reinstate you so you can apply that active license. I might have a little issue with that too.
Excuse me, for a point of clarification, I want to make sure, and the judges here also, that we're not debating or making judgments prior to deliberation. If there's a question, we should probably ask that question as a clarifying fact. But I don't know if we should be giving our opinions now before we've had the chance to go in closed session.
Okay.
As a matter of reform.
Yeah, I would agree. As the board members are probably aware, they're going to keep an open mind until the case has been submitted and everything's been presented to them, and then they'll have some discussion in closed session. But they may have some questions for you now,
Yeah.
so if you have anything in question form, that would be appropriate.
So,
I did.
So can you
Excuse
tell
me.
the board? Yeah, can you tell the board between that 3 to 4 hours that you work at that particular pharmacy?
I
Have
did.
you did
I
fill all the,
was
you did,
semi-retired and I was trying to. He asked me to help him, so he could spend more time with the
right,
family.
but were you aware of all those violations at the time while you were working for him?
No, I didn't know of
You
it.
didn't know?
No,
You didn't check
Because-
did you check the cures or did you check the
Yeah.
patient record at that
that
time?
was my fault that I should have checked those. And I didn't really have contact with the doctors or the patient because I just go in and
So you,
fill a prescription and then I walk right out. You know, it's such a short period of time. It was almost impossible for me. I did ask if we got okays on there was one refill problem I recall. And it was an old-fashioned system where you had to mark it on the back of the original prescription. For some reason, I didn't do it on one prescription. And they usually ask the farm techs and everything, did we get an okay on this and that? And they would let me know. And then there was a problem. They were converting where you didn't have to write it on the back of the prescription. Electronically, they could just punch it in, or the pharmacist could punch it in. But they didn't have it. They were working on it. So there was confusion during that period. And I'm sorry it happened.
no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you for coming here.
Thank you for asking me that.
I wish you well, and I have no questions for you. Thank you.
I have no questions.
Thank you for coming, I have no questions.
Thank you, everyone, President, everybody, for considering me.
Was there anything else, Ms. Cullivers?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and thank you very much for being here, and we will consider the matter to be submitted at this time,
Thank you.
and we will go off the record. Thank you.
Is there if I leave now, Judge?
Yes,
Thank you,
you're
Board
free to go. You don't have to be here for the rest of the day, or you're free now. Thank you.
Officer.
Thank you.
Thank
And it
you.
usually takes how
Okay.
long for these decisions to come in the mail?
Well, usually it could take up to 30 days for me
Yeah.
to put it together and get it to you, and then after that, I think you have 100 days after that to put it in the mail.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha.
So it'll be about
3
maximum
months.
100 days.
It could be about 130 days,
Oh, yeah.
I'd say maximum.
That's fine, Judge.
Okay,
Thank you. very
thank
much.
you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you for
President.
coming. Okay, we shall take a 30 minutes lunch break before we go on the next petition. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Administrative Law Judge, the Honorable Laurie Perlman is presiding. Your Honor.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are back. We're going to be going on the record for the additional petitions. And the first one we're going to take up this afternoon is Mr. Fellini's petition. Is he here today?
Yes.
Okay, if you'll come up to the table here, sir. Thank you so much. So I'll go ahead and put us on the record. We are on the record. It is September 7th, 2018 at 1:18 p.m. We're in Los Angeles before the Board of Pharmacy in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Mr. Oladimeji Fellini, Oladimeji, last name Falemi, OEH case number 2018-090-150, Pharmacy Board number 3158. I'm Laurie Perlman. I'm the Administrative Law Judge who will be sitting with the board this afternoon. And I will take appearances first from the Deputy Attorney General.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, President and members of the Board. Desiree Tolleners, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And sir, if you would state your name for the record, please.
Oladimeji Falemi.
We're gonna ask you to speak a little louder, and that way everybody can hear what you're saying. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we will do, I don't know if you were here earlier today, but basically we will have the Deputy Attorney General present some documents which I'll mark and admitted to evidence, and she will make an opening statement. You can choose to make an opening statement if you wish, and then there'll be questions from her. There may be questions from the board members. I may jump in from time to time. So with that, I will turn things over to Ms. Colliners. Did you want to make an opening today?
Yes, Your Honor. First, we'd like to mark the exhibits for the record. I have 3. The first one is the original petition packet with the accompanying document as Exhibit 1. The second, Exhibit 2, is the certified copy karaoke night. The second is a certified copy of the default decision and order. And the third is the agreement to electronic recording of hearing.
Thank you. So I will mark as Exhibit 1 for identification the petition packet. Number 2 for identification is the default decision and order. And then number 3 for identification will be the agreement to electronic recording. I'm going to go ahead and admit all 3 into evidence at this time. No objections to that?
No objection.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. And let me go ahead and swear you in at this time. So if you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And did you want Mr. Salimi to begin, or did you want to ask your questions first?
I would like to give a summary of the case and
Okay.
defer to Mr. Falimi if he has an opening statement.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. The discipline in this case arose out of an accusation filed by the board in October 2008 that alleged that on or about October 1st, 2007, petitioner knowingly signed a renewal application under penalty of perjury, claiming to have completed 30 hours of continuing education when he did not complete accredited continuing education as required by the board. In doing so, he also failed to complete the required 30 hours of continuing education during the renewal time period. The accusation also set forth 4 convictions of substantially related crimes: a July 2006 reckless driving conviction with a subsequent May 2008 bench warrant for a failure to appear on a probation violation, an October 2002 reckless driving misdemeanor, a March 2001 DUI misdemeanor, and an October 1991 DUI misdemeanor. The crimes were alleged to pertain to alcohol abuse and would have been grounds to deny the license. Effective January 6, 2010, petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked by default decision and order. Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of his license. I am prepared to proceed with questions unless the petitioner would like to make an opening statement.
Would you like to make an opening statement at this time, or do you want to just have the deputy ask you questions?
You can go ahead and ask question. That's fine.
Okay, so you can proceed with your question.
Have you sustained any conviction since your license was revoked by the board?
No.
Do you have a November 29, 2016 DUI conviction?
2016?
Yes.
No.
looking at a document that was submitted in your packet, which is a criminal case summary for a case out of an Inglewood Courthouse, YA 068-30601.
No. My case was not criminal. They were all miscellaneous. The number was mistakenly used and they rectified that later on.
So, in your petition packet, for the case summary that was provided, it indicates that there was a count 2 Vehicle Code Section 23152B conviction on November 29th of 2016. You don't recall that?
2 years ago,
Yes, sir.
no, I wasn't even in the country.
You don't recall pleading no contendere to that charge?
No, I didn't. I was not around, so I cannot plead to it. I only came to clear my old cases.
So for the alcohol convictions prior to that were addressed as part of the accusation, they occurred between 1991 and 2006, a period of 16 years. Can you explain why you've had issues with alcohol during that time?
Yeah. It only happens because I'm a kind of a social drinker. I'm not a habitual abuser of alcohol. But once you have the police stop you and they see that you are already on one, they automatically, basically want to issue another DUI. That's the way I look at it. So I'm not an abuser, user of alcohol. And because I walk all length of California, from Northern California to Southern California to help. And I do a lot of driving from rural area to town and city, and I work for the agency. So I'm not an abuser, user of alcohol the way it portrayed in my profile.
Thank you. Do you have a sobriety date for the use of alcohol, or do you continue to use alcohol?
No, I don't use alcohol anymore.
Do you know what date you stopped officially?
Oh, that was a long time ago, over 7 years ago now.
During your court-ordered first offender programs for 2 of your DUIs, you failed the first offender programs. Can you please explain why?
I took care of all the requirements for the classes.
But you initially failed out and had to be reinstated 2 times.
Maybe because I traveled out. Maybe that's why. What year is that?
Maybe if you can keep the mic closer when you
Okay.
speak, and then it's hard to hear.
In reviewing the transcripts of the court dockets for your convictions related to reckless driving and the DUIs, you have a history of failure to comply with criminal probation. On 2 occasions, you were sentenced to jail time for probation violations. You refused to complete a field sobriety test and a blood alcohol test one time on the scene of the arrest, and you had a failure to appear for a probation violation. So if the board members are looking at those facts, how can you reassure them that if your license is reinstated, even on a probationary basis, that you would comply with probation?
The only time I go to a jailhouse is it's right there on the spot. That's the only time that I was sentenced to go. and I always take care of all the requirements.
So you don't recall being sentenced to jail time for probation violations in a court?
No, I've never gone to jail house apart from immediately they stop you, they tell you have to go. That's all. Never. And they made a mistake of counting it as a criminal and they label it as AY, and it was a mistake that I have to do extra time because they wanted to bring me out after 8 hours, but it was a mistake. They thought it was already 3 at that period. And all the DUI after 3, then it turns to a more dangerous crime. But so that's what happened. It never passed 3, but they thought it was 3. So the issue is as AY, which is, but that was not the issue. I was not sentenced apart from that. So,
How would you reassure the board that you would be a successful candidate on probation?
I'm always taking care of the law. It was just a honest mistake to have some drinks during that period. And I don't drink anymore, so that issue won't occur.
So if the board imposed a requirement that you comply with random alcohol testing, would you do that?
Yes.
Do you have any support system or attend AA meetings to deal with your alcohol use?
No, apart from the requirement that they gave me at the school, the class, no.
And that was related to the DUIs?
Yeah, it's just related to the DUI, but no other special classes.
Nothing on an ongoing basis to help you maintain sobriety?
No, I don't do that because I don't need it.
So it's been 8.5 years since your license has been revoked. Why do you wish to be reinstated now?
Well, most of those 8.5 years I haven't been around. I've been in Nigeria, and I practice as a pharmacist there most of the time because I'm a registered pharmacist uptown in Nigeria. So, but now my children are here and starting having, my grandchildren are here too. So it seems like I'll be back here one way or the other. So I want to continue helping the community since I've been trying most of the years for over 28 years, running on from Northern California to Southern California in between serving. So I'm just thinking that it would be good to have my own community, small independent store too in the rural area, and just start since I'm going to be 62 now, so I can do that for more years. So I'm thinking that I should get my license back just to help people out.
I don't have any more questions at this time.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say to the board and focusing on rehabilitation?
Well, like I said, I don't drink it anymore at all, so that helps a lot about getting into trouble. So I serve so many independent chain store, even the prison and all that. So I have a track of records for over 28 years that I work as a pharmacist in California, that I'm a good person, so, and I'm entrusted with a lot of things. So I think they should give me a chance to serve.
Thank you. Let's see if the board members have any questions.
Start from that side this time.
Not here, thank you.
Hi, Maria Serpa from Professional Member. What we read was that years ago when your license was revoked, it was a default decision. Can you give us a little bit of background as to why you didn't present any information at that time?
Yes. In fact, I did not even know that my license has been going through any hearing at that period because I was in Nigeria. But at that period, you could tell that I already opened a pharmacist in Nigeria, in Lagos. So until finally, when I got the information, my yes, my daughter finally told me that she signed for something that came to the house a couple of years ago. So now she regretted that, and if I have knew that I was going through an hearing, I would have appeared. You know, although I was scared because I gave a lawyer money to take care of my DUI, which he didn't take care of it. So when my wife came back and paid him another $10,000, he took it. And right now, when they search for his name, his license has been suspended. But he was a good lawyer because he helped me out before in Lancaster. So that leads to some warrant on me that I didn't even know. So I was like a little bit scary, fear that I didn't come over in time. So during that period, I called, there's a lawyer, Ron Mark. So I talked to him and he said I should try and come as soon as possible. I said, well, there's a warrant out for me, but I didn't do nothing. I didn't steal, I didn't do nothing. So why is a warrant out for me? So finally I realized that the lawyer I gave money did not go and take care of my case. Because being a miscellaneous, you can be represented without you being there. It was not a criminal offense that my DUI had. So, did that answer your question, man?
Just keep the microphone and the board members can ask the question. Thank you.
Maybe I can speak loud enough so you can hear me.
Yes.
So, whether it be 5 DUIs, including the one in November 2016, or 4 DUIs, even though one was a wet reckless, it still is a lot, regardless of what the period of time may be. It appears to me that you're a pharmacist. You understand the effect of drugs and alcohol on a system. And whether or not you feel you have a problem or you don't have a problem, you are a pharmacist and you're not a professional who works with people who do have problems. You have not taken the opportunity to look for help outside of your own self with regards to rehabilitation programs for what could be perceived by us that you have a problem. And so, from what I can tell, is you don't have any. I don't see where you've gone to any rehab programs. I
did not go to any.
Yeah. But you claim you're not an abuser of alcohol. So I would just wonder if you are approaching, whether you think you have a problem or you don't, but if you're being responsible about approaching this issue. And it just, I worry about that because I don't know how I would look at anybody else with this type of circumstance. And when I feel that they have taken the responsibility, whether they did it socially and the police happened to go by or whatever, I just don't feel that you have accepted the fact that you may have a problem. And being a pharmacist, I think you should be open-minded or more open-minded about that than you are. And by not accepting that you might have a problem, you haven't sought out any help. And you're asking me to throw the dice with you and let you get behind a prescription counter again. And it's been a long time, 8 years since you've been practicing as a pharmacist.
Here.
Huh?
here.
Well, I'm only concerned, yeah, I only know here. And during that time, you've only taken 16 Power Pack continuing education classes, and I think those are about 1 unit per Power Pack continuing education. So in the past 8 years, you haven't, in my mind, helped yourself. You haven't admitted to whether or not that you have a problem, and I think the board thinks you may or do. And I'm not even sure how current you are to practice pharmacy, because all I can find is some articles that you read, 16 units in 8 years of continuing education. If you renewed your license every 2 years, it would have been about 4 renewals, should have been 120 units to keep you current in the eyes of the State Board of Pharmacy. So those are the issues that I'm troubled with.
I'm very sorry and ashamed of having all those DUI, but that was in the past. That was over 10 years ago now. And I paid the consequences. So about I'm still practicing pharmacy. It just happened that it's not here in California. So we do university continuing education too. So that you should put in mind also.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ms. Connors. I'm just trying to get a little clarification on that conviction that you had asked about in November 2016. Is there somewhere in packet number 1 where we can focus on?
It's here.
It's about 8%, I believe.
Okay. So here's my question, because I'm looking at a couple of places where it's mentioned, and it looks like it's case number YA68306. Is
Yes.
that correct?
So it's about 14 pages in.
Because that seems to be the same case number for this 2007 violation. And as I'm looking at the how it's set out in here, it looks, and maybe a petitioner can clarify. It looks like actions might have been started on the 2007 case, and then perhaps you left the country or you weren't in court, and there was a bench warrant, and then in 2016 you were
Right.
picked up on a bench warrant.
Yes, that's what I was saying, that I paid the lawyer and he didn't take care of it. So I came back myself to start taking care of it again in 2016. So and I paid everything and took care of everything they require me to do. So there wasn't anything else about that. But like it said, about 1, 2, or 3, or 5, I'm still ashamed of it, and I'm sorry for that. But that was in the past. That was a long time ago.
So that's what it's looking like from the dates and the case number I see here in Ms. Connors, unless you have some other information that we're not seeing right
The 2006 conviction that was alleged in the accusation has a different case number. And a different charge, violation of the Vehicle Code section for 23103. And the one that was submitted by petitioner with his packet that shows a dispo date of November 29, 2016 is for 23152, so a DUI. So I believe those were 2 different convictions.
now. Okay, well,
That's why I made the inquiry.
we'll try to look further. Thank you.
Victor Law Board President. Mr. Fernandez, I want to ask you, besides the DUI issues that you had, how about the accusation about your continuing education that the board thought that you didn't complete? completed. So what is your explanation?
Right. During that time in 2007, it was the same time I was going through this issue of being arrested. And it was around that same time that I already planned going to Nigeria. I started taking care of some classes in Nigeria in the university there. So then it's not a good excuse that I put that in. I did during that period. I could have put out the numbers of units I have with me, because I did not complete 30 units, but I do have some at that time. But I did not put it forward that this is the so much unit I have. Then I put in when I was audited is when I added the Nigerian package to it, and they said, no, we don't accept that.
But if you were practicing in Nigeria at that time, then you know that your California license is going to be in jeopardy since you're not going to be here.
Right, it was a honest mistake that I did sign that 30 hours something. I'm not supposed to do that.
All right, let's get a question there.
I have a couple questions. So, first, the counselor. You claim that he had a DUI in 2016, correct? According to your records.
I was asking about it because it looked in the records that were provided that he did.
Okay, if he did have one and he didn't go to the courthouse to adjudicate that DUI, I would assume he would have a warrant out for his arrest today. Is that correct?
Correct, but it shows that the matter is concluded in the paperwork.
So, concluded, so did you go to court for a DUI in 2016? Because one or two things are going to happen. If you went to court and had it adjudicated at court, that's fine. If you didn't go to court, you would have a warrant out for your arrest because for failure to appear.
In fact, I took a Uber to court. My license was just reinstated in that 2000 and probably 2017 after taking care of all this.
Yeah.
So I didn't even drive or not to even be arrested.
Yeah. Now, you just asked my next question, do you have a valid driver's license? Because if you did have a valid driver's license.
Yes, I do.
So, Counselor,
Right
my gut tells me if you have a valid driver's license that was just renewed, you can't get a valid driver's license if you have a warrant against you. Is that correct?
Okay.
All right. So my gut tells me there's a mistake in the paperwork.
I'm just asking about the conviction, though, not.
Well,
the status.
there can't be a 2016 conviction. If there was, you could have a conviction in 2016. If you never went to court, there's no warrant, and you have a valid driver's license that was just recently renewed. It just doesn't make sense. If I'm missing something, let me know.
It is in the petition packet, the paperwork, and it even references jail time, 4 days in jail, sentenced on November 29, 2016, on page 3 or 4 of it.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't make any sense. And, there's another attorney here, maybe you can clarify, what my thinking is on here.
To me, there's confusion here, and it needs to be fixed. It appears, as Your Honor has pointed out, that this is the same case number. It also looks like from the docket that there was a number of judicial actions taken between February 16th and I guess August, is it? Or a little bit later, suggesting there was a bench warrant hearing that was then canceled, put on hold.
That's what I'm reading.
Perhaps
also.
emanating from a prior conviction or a prior failure to appear. But at the same time, you pointed out that there's a different charge, which is also interesting and confusing. So there has to be, I'm sure this is something that can be clarified through an administrative check, but I agree with you that it suggests, I think from what I can gather, it appears that this is from a prior conviction and a judicial proceeding that post-dated that because of a failure to appear. And because of the reasons you stated, Ryan, I don't think that it's an actual new conviction. Yeah. But I also don't understand the fact there's a separate charge and what you're pointing to as 4 days of jail time.
And here's why I'm asking the question. not to, because sometimes paperwork, government doesn't always get it right, believe it or not. And we're going to, as a board, make a decision. I want to make sure we're making a decision on the fate of this future based on a very clear record, right? So the last thing I want to do is go into deliberation, make a decision on this record when there's obviously some confusion among it. And I would ask, the judge to render your opinion on our ability to make a decision on this case without a record that is not clear.
Well, all I can say is, I think if you look at the documents that are in Exhibit 1, I think the record is fairly clear in that November 29, 2016 date comes from the violation date of March 31st, 2007, because I'm looking at the first page of the docket, and it does seem to be reflecting back to that 2007 violation. And what the petitioner is telling us is that there was some confusion with his attorney, and that's why he was picked up on a bench warrant on these later dates.
But still, Councilman, here's what doesn't make sense to me, and maybe it's just me looking at this right now, is if it was related to that 2007 conviction, that's fine. But if it was related to the 2007 conviction, this 2016 would have a different, it was under a different statute. So I don't know how that happens.
Did you enter a plea? Did you have a plea deal in that case? When you ended
When I came back in 2016,
yes. Did you go through a trial or did you have a plea deal?
it was a plea. I didn't go through a trial.
That's probably why, because often the plea deal you'll plead to a particular.
Oh, so a lesser sentence or something. So that could explain why this 2016 code number is different. And so what I'm hearing right now, there was only one in 2007, right? And then there was a plea deal happened in 2016. That plea deal is the reason why the code section is different from the original 2007 DUI. Is that correct?
That could make sense. That's why I was questioning the whole matter of the conviction.
Just a clarification, because I'm just reading page 3 of 4 and 4 of 4, which is the documents provided. It talks about jail term or in lieu of fine. So I don't know what that means. But the part that I'm bringing up that is different is it looks like there was a comment about the defendant shall enroll and participate in complete a 3 months license first offender alcohol program. That was part of the sentence in 2016.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing is that sentence in 2016 was a plea deal prior to a lesser charge, and the sentence was to go into some rehab facility or whatever that was.
Potentially, but I'm just reading those 2 pages.
And Your Honor, with your permission, I just wanted to ask, did you enroll in any such program for 3 months?
Yes.
You did do that?
I did.
Okay. In 2016?
In 2016.
Okay.
And they gave me a 4 days credit for jail time. So it's still related to the 2007.
So then you were incarcerated for 4 days.
It wasn't 4 days really, but I don't know how they calculated. I told you that they made a mistake. They were going to release me. Then later on, they have to put me with the people that like killers, and I slept with a man that told me that he killed the wife. So I was really scared that, yes, I was with them. Felony people.
So another question about jail time served. I don't know how it looks on the record. And so many times, because especially in California, because of overcrowding, you'll sentence you to 15 days. And I don't know how it's officially on the release form. You might have served 2 days.
Right.
So will it say 15 days time served? I don't know how that works. And I'm just trying to clear up the record because now I'm going to repeat myself. If we're going to make a decision on this board, I want to make sure our record is, our decision process is bulletproof and the record is very clear. So, Councilor?
Well, I appreciate your clarification efforts and looking up, and that is why I had the question when I initially started with the petitioner to verify what happened in the conviction of 2016, and I would be happy to state on behalf of people, we believe there are only 4, and that the 4th one is related to just 2007, but it took until 2016 to resolve, and that it is a very recent conviction then, and a recent first offender program completion, and recent jail time.
So we have evidence of the rehabilitation program that you went through in 2016?
Yep.
Is it in the packet? I didn't see it.
No. We have to give it to the court before you can be clear. It's part of the requirement. And you have to pay the fine too and all that. Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't see it in the record. Do you have a copy of it? Did you provide a copy for the record?
I did. Yes.
I have a note that probation successfully terminated on that 11/2016
on the docket
conviction. I made my own note. I'm not sure where I picked that up from in looking at the petition. So there, yes, probation was terminated. It's in your
The certified docket, number 9.
could be. Can you see it there?
It's the docket sheet, about 7 pages in, and it says number 9 in the upper right corner.
And Judge, may I ask a question that's not in the record?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of your recent renewal of your driver's license, the date, a valid?
I do. I have it right here.
And the reason I asked that question is if this has not been cleared up, you cannot get a driver's license in the state of California. And so my gut tells me if he has a valid driver's license, it's probably cleared. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would, and I still would just state it's a recent conviction to be taken into account.
Yeah, no, we're absolutely.
Right.
Once again, it's not. My question is not always about this particular case. It's about the precedence of this board and the decision-making process we go through. So I want to make sure we get this right, because this, comes up often, and then people come back and they protest and say, "Oh, the record was wrong," and we go through this again. And so that's why I'm spending so much time making sure we get it right the first
So
time.
we need a copy. Does the judge need to take a look at his driver's license?
That's up to the judge to decide.
Well, what I would just say, just to step back 1 second, and I appreciate your making this point. I think it's helpful. I am looking at the Exhibit 1, the page that has number 9 on the top, and it does say probation terminated. Although it's cut off, it says probation terminated, VATION. So, okay, and then it says probation terminated this date on the following page, which is, the date is, I believe, 7/3/2017. So for probation to terminate, it would indicate that you successfully completed the terms of probation.
Correct.
Yeah.
It also looks like there's something that we found that appears to validate that you're on.
The pages aren't numbered, but according to the PDF that was sent to us, it's page 15 of 31. So
Title is certificate, time status notification,
from
self-improvement alternatives, SIAM.
Yes.
Does that sound right? So that is proof of completion. That's 3 months, AB 541. May 10th, 2017 completed.
So I don't know, Mr. Brooks, if that answers. the
No,
concern.
if you're, I'm satisfied with it, but you're the judge, so you have
Well-
to tell me about,
Yeah, I mean, the board are the decision makers in this
Yeah.
instance. It's not, I won't be making the decision, but from the record that I see that's been presented, I don't think that there's a question that can't be determined based on the documents.
And I would agree also, so thank you. No further questions or comments, so thank you.
And Mr. Wong has a question.
Yeah. Mr. Bellini, is it very easy for you to obtain the California pharmacist license?
Is it very easy for me to obtain a California pharmacy license?
Yes.
It's not easy.
But how come you don't value it? I mean, you have one after another DUI. So after the first one, you get the message, right? And you still continue drinking. So what's the rationale behind that? I'd like to think, I'd like to find out, because we deal with a lot of DUI cases. So the first DUI, you're already put on probation already. Okay, so now you have 4. So after the first one, you still don't heed the warning and you still continue to commit those DUI. So I'd like to, what's your rationale? Why you guys doing that? Because it's not hard to obtain the license, and then why people don't value it. That's what I try to understand.
Yeah, I do value my license, but during those days, I did not get any warning. I'm sorry. So I did not. It did not even occur to me that it happens at that period. So, but I regret it, and I'm ashamed about it that I have to go through 4 of it.
And this is the reason why we have a meeting here. So for the student, for the other licensee, to understand the importance of the DUI. I mean, what it could do to them when they commit those DUI. So I hope most of the people out there could learn from your mistake. So that's why we're having that session here.
Might have to ask one more question.
Sure.
So, in your testimony today, you talked about you're a casual drinker at the time, and I know this was back in the last one was 2007. You're a casual drinker, and once you get pulled over, officers automatically, test you because you had a prior conviction. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Knowing what you know, and here's my biggest issue with your testimony, is you seem to lack judgment. Judgment, because if you're going to become a pharmacist, you have to have good judgment. And if you believe that, if you knew that you already had a DUI, and then if you did get pulled over again, and you had alcohol in your system above the 0.08 level of the state of California, you would probably go back to jail and get another conviction. That didn't happen once, twice, 3, it happened 4 times. And you come before this board today to say, I'm just a casual drinker, I made a mistake, they keep pulling me over. But you're not seeming to use good judgment. And our job here at the Board of Pharmacy is to protect the public. If you're dispensing medicine or working behind that pharmacy counter, how do we know you have good judgment? That's my question.
Thank you. Because it's been the age bracket now matters also. I don't know. At that time now I'm 10 years older, so now I make better judgment. So that's the only way I can answer that question. Because yes, you are right that it happens not more than once, twice. So, but I've changed now. So.
But do you realize that it was bad judgment?
Yes.
And not just, you were a casual drinker and you were targeted for some reason.
Oh, no. If there's no alcohol in me, then they won't, even if they stop me, then they'll let me go. So it was all on me.
Thank you. No further questions.
May I ask a follow-up question? A follow-up to Dr. Wong's question regarding the break in licensure, and that you were unaware of your license being revoked. Is that correct? You said you were unaware?
Yes, I was not aware immediately.
In between the date that it was revoked and the date that you became aware, weren't there some renewals that would have been due in between? Did you not miss a renewal or look for a renewal?
For California renewal?
Yes.
No, there wasn't any. It was revoked in 2010.
Correct. But when were you aware that it was revoked? You said you weren't aware at that time.
Oh, I was not aware during the process because there was some hearing.
Oh, so okay.
Yes.
So you were aware in 2010.
Yes, after it was revoked, then I was aware.
Thank you for clarifying.
Any additional questions? No?
I have
Yes, Ms. Colorado.
Just as a point of clarification, where I came up with the 5 is in the initial accusation that lists an October 1991 DUI conviction, and that was not listed as part of petitioner's answers to question number 13. And if it was included, there would be 5.
Counselor, can you enumerate the 5? Or would you enumerate the 5?
It's the October 18, 1991 Vehicle Code Section 23151A for DUI misdemeanor. The March 28, 2001 Vehicle Code 23152 subsection A misdemeanor DUI. The October 22nd, 2002 Vehicle Code Section 23103.5 misdemeanor reckless driving. The July 10, 2006 Vehicle Code Section 23103 reckless driving. And the recent conviction, which we were discussing earlier, which terminated around November of 2016 for a 23152B that started in 2007. So that would be 5 by my count.
As I see, I think what the confusion was, the 2007 was written as a November 2016 violation, although that was the conviction. But yeah, it does appear that
It is
there are
5.
5, yes.
No more questions other than clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Did that lead to anything else? No. Okay, so I think we have completed our hearing, unless anyone wants to make some closing remarks. Nope. Okay. So the matter will be taken under submission. You will be getting a written decision down the road, and thank you for your participation here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So once the petitioner, thank you. We will, yes, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll have the next case. Good afternoon once again. We're going to move forward with another case, the case of Ms. Minson. So if you'll come up to the table, thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and get back on the record. So it is September 7th, 2018 at 2:17 p.m. We're in Los Angeles before the Board of Pharmacy in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of the pharmacy technician license of Heidi Minson, H-E-I-D-I-M-I-N-S-O-N, OH case number 2018-090-145, pharmacy board number 3188. I am Lori Coleman. I'm the administrative law judge sitting with the board this afternoon, and I will take appearances from the DAG.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the board. Deputy Attorney General Desiree Tollner is appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Tollners. And if you would say your name for the record, please.
Heidi Minson.
Good afternoon. So I think we probably have some documents we'll mark at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to mark 3 documents for the record. The first, as Exhibit 1, will be the original petition packet with accompanying documents. The second will be the default decision and order in this matter as Exhibit 2. And the third is the agreement to electronic recording of hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Tollners. So I'm marking as 1 for identification, the petition, document, 2 for identification, the default decision and order, and 3 for identification, the agreement. And did you want to make an opening statement this afternoon, Ms. Miller, Ms. Tollners?
Yes, Your Honor, just a brief summary of the previous discipline. On August 28th of 2008, the board filed an accusation against petitioner based on 2 convictions and for unprofessional conduct involving moral turpitude, fraud, or deceit, and violation of controlled substance statutes. Petitioner pled guilty and was convicted of violating Health and Safety Code Section 11364 for possession of narcotics paraphernalia in July of 2005. The circumstances of this first crime were that petitioner admitted to owning a glass-bulbed pipe which contained evidence and visible signs of a controlled substance when police officers served a search warrant on petitioner's then-boyfriend at the apartment they shared. The court deferred entry of judgment for 18 months pursuant to a PC 1000 program. Petitioner violated probation for not completing the program initially, was subsequently reinstated by the court. The misdemeanor charge has been dismissed by petition effective October 22nd, 2010. The second conviction occurred on July 18, 2007, where petitioner was convicted of violating Penal Code Section 496, Subdivision D, for receiving a stolen vehicle. This crime, the court reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor on her plea of guilty. The circumstances of the crime were that on July 4, 2007, petitioner and her then-boyfriend were found to be in possession of a stolen vehicle which they intended to trade for the purchase of methamphetamine. Petitioner and her then-boyfriend were stopped at gunpoint by San Diego police officers when they attempted to flee the scene in petitioner's vehicle. Petitioner admitted to the police officers at the time that she knew the vehicle was stolen. This conviction was also expunged by the court, and that occurred on November 12, 2010. Effective January 22, 2009, petitioner's pharmacist technician registration was revoked by way of a default decision and order. Petitioner has now filed this petition for reinstatement of her registration. And I'm now prepared to proceed with questions unless you would like to make an opening statement.
Okay, did you want to make an opening statement today?
I'll just answer questions.
Okay, so let me go ahead and swear you in. If you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And while I'm thinking of it, I am going to admit exhibits 1, 2, and 3, unless there's any objection for those exhibits. Okay, so those are admitted at this time. And Ms. Connors, you can proceed with questions.
Do you have a copy of your petition packet with you?
I do not. I left it in Las Vegas when I was back.
I wanted to turn your attention to question number 17 in the attachment to your petition, and so sorry if I show it.
So
this is the third page in of the petition. Did you prepare the statement?
Yes, I did.
Question 17 asks why you think your license should be restored. And in your answer to question 17, you state, I made choices to protect and to keep bad people around me during the time I was getting into trouble, and would think that I would be able to save him/them if I stayed normal. What do you mean by that?
If I lived, well, so my boyfriend at that time was into drugs, and I knew that. But I felt that I could save him as long as I did things as normal as I possibly could. You know, to be honest, I did not do meth with him. I hated the way it made him act. I tried it when I was 16, and I really it made me feel terrible. So, you know, he liked to do it. He was addicted to it. I did smoke pot every once in a while. I drank. But as far as like letting him do meth, I was aware of it. But I always thought in my head, if I strayed away from doing the drugs and I held a job and I went to school and I had morals and values, maybe I could instill them into him. Because when he would go to jail, the conversation would be, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. I love you, you know, I'm going to get out, we're going to have a better life. And his family at that time was kind of a support system for us. And like his parents and I, we would feed into his BS, excuse my language, but we would believe him. And it went like that for many years. until the very last time we got in trouble because I told the police, I said, I was not aware this car was stolen. I was asleep. I woke up. He said, hey, my friend let me borrow his car. Let's go return it to him in San Diego. I said, okay, fine, I'll follow you. I followed him in my car, and then the police stopped him. So I pulled over. He jumped into my car, and that's when they stopped me too. I did tell the police, I said, you know what? You can fingerprint the car. You can fingerprint me. You will find nothing of me that belongs to that car. And I was like, to be honest, did not know it was stolen. I swear, but they said, well, he jumped into your car. You obviously knew something was up. But, I mean, to answer your question, yes, I believed in my heart of heart that if I did everything I could to be a normal citizen, that maybe he would, pick up on it.
There's a record of you admitting that you owned the glass bowl pipe that was located in your boyfriend's apartment that you lived with. How is that you not using if you have a pipe that you admit owning?
Okay, so when the cops came, they raided the apartment because he and I shared the name on the lease. Whatever was in there, we shared. And I explained to them, I said, you can drug test me. I don't do meth. I want to keep my teeth. And, I honestly don't like the way it makes me feel. I told them, I said, I smoke pot. I'll own up to that. But as far as the meth, that is in his drawer. The police officer said, you guys share your name on the lease. It doesn't matter what drawer it's in. It could be in your drawer. It could be under the kitchen sink. He was like, it's yours as well. But I did tell them, I said, take me to jail and drug test me. If this is how it's going to be, I want you to do that then so I can prove to you that you're wrong. And they didn't.
In your answer to question 19, on the same page, petition page 3, do you recognize that answer?
Yes, about the rehab, how...
Did you prepare that?
Yes, I prepared all these answers.
You state you completed an outpatient rehab in April of 2007. What did you enter rehab for?
I entered rehab for, I was supposed to complete my initial rehab, which they did discharge me from because I didn't show up to it. So I went back to court. They said that I could find an outpatient rehab where I lived. I lived in Escondido. The first rehab I went to was in Oceanside. I did not have a vehicle. So to be honest, I did not want to make the bus journey there every week. So I just did not go. So I found an outpatient rehab in Escondido, and I attended that one. It was a lot easier for me to get to and from too.
And what drug did you enter for?
It was for the drug paraphernalia. So it wasn't for being under the influence of any type of controlled substance. It was just for the paraphernalia.
So you maintain you have not used any controlled substances except marijuana since the methamphetamine experimentation when you were 16?
Right.
Do you still use marijuana today?
No.
Any other controlled substances?
Nope. I don't drink. I don't smoke weed. I don't smoke cigarettes.
You currently reside in Las Vegas?
Yes, I do.
Now, what are your intentions if you get your technician registration reinstated?
So I was employed with CVS. I was with them for almost 10 years. And I did very well with them. I became a store manager. This past year, they decided to really push the store managers into becoming pharmacy technicians. Unfortunately for me, with having my license revoked out in California, I knew that I could not do that. So I did quit. I wanted to go back to school for dental hygiene. I contacted, so in Nevada, anything that has a medical license, I was told has to go through the Board of Pharmacy out there. So I did contact them and let them know I have this license that was revoked in California in 2009. I'd like to pursue dental hygiene. Can I become licensed? The lady that I spoke to said probably not. So here I am trying to just get the weight off my shoulders so I can move on.
So, do you intend to practice as a technician in California at any time?
If it will get me my license back, yes. I was told, I reached out to an attorney to see, like, you know, what the steps are, and he said that if your license is reinstated, it's on a probationary period, so you would have to be employed out in the state that it was revoked in. So I did make arrangements to, you know, come out here once a week if need be to practice on the probationary license and hopefully either transfer it to Nevada or just have it to where if I do pursue anything else in the medical field, it's not hanging over my head.
What if the ostensive probation requirements were hours that would be more than once a week in order to comply?
Then I have family that lives out here, my in-laws, so I guess I'll move in with them.
I don't have any more questions on this, Tanya.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, thank you for your time. I'm sorry for all the stuff that I did in the past, you know, I'm not proud of it. I'm here because I have a family and everything I did back then, I want it to be gone. I don't want to look back and have it hanging over my head. You know, I made really bad choices and it's taken so long to move on from them. Since then, I own my house in Las Vegas. I work at Treasure Island now. You know, I have 2 wonderful kids that I want to give them their best future that they possibly can and not be embarrassed to tell them, oh yeah, this is what mommy did and this is what happened. I want to say, your mom made some bad choices, but your mom also did what she could to right those wrongs. I'm sorry. I'm crying. Thank you.
How old are your children?
My daughter's 9 and my son is 3. And to be honest, when I was pregnant with my daughter is when I was like, okay, after I got out of jail in 2007, I was already like, I gotta get my life back on track. Unfortunately, my family and we split on bad terms. So I was kind of on my own, you know. Everyone that I knew, they were druggies. I didn't want to hang out with them. So I found someone who worked under the table. We fell in love. I got pregnant, and then I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I can't do this by myself. I want to be a good parent. So I reached out to my parents for support and moved to Vegas. And since then, I made a promise that I will do whatever it takes to build a good life for my kids. I do want to go back to school in the medical field. And, you know, if I could possibly still be a tech, I enjoy it. I like that, you know, contact with the patients. I like just interacting with them and helping them. I feel working at CVS, I saw a lot of cold-hearted people in pharmacy, and it really bothered me. And, you know, like, I always thought it's not right. Pharmacy should be like patient bedside manner. Like, we should care about the people that we're filling for. And that's, like, I really enjoy it, to be honest.
How old were you at the time of the conviction?
The first one, I was 22. And then the second one, I was 24.
And how old are you now?
I'm 34.
Let's see if the board members have any questions.
No questions. Thank you for coming today. No questions.
So you got off the marijuana. Is it how easy for you to do that?
It was pretty easy. I didn't smoke it every day, to be honest. You know, I did it with my friends as my boyfriend back then was getting high, you know, on his drug of choice. I smoked pot. It also really sedated me to kind of tune out what was going on so I could sleep. And even now that it's legalized in Nevada, I have no desire to smoke it or to eat it or anything. You know, I don't desire to use any type of substance to make myself feel better. I really want to do things so that my kids see a good role model.
If it's so easy, how come not more people could get on
That's-
it?
I don't know. That's
Fair question.
I mean, because you're motivated, because of family.
I have a good support system.
Yeah.
I
It's the motivation factor that make it easier, or
think so. I want to work hard for what I get, and I want to be able to say I worked for this. My blood, sweat, and tears got me this. So, and also my kids. My kids really motivate me. I don't want them to see their mom as a pothead, even though it's legal. I want them to see their mom as the mom that supports them, the mom that is involved with them, the mom that doesn't have to rely on substances to live her life. Because I don't. I don't need it. I don't want it. It's a waste of money, to be honest, you know. I want something to show for my money.
Thank you for coming. It's been about 10 years you've been, clean basically.
Yes.
In those 10 years, what have you done to avoid those friends? It's hard to get rid of friends sometimes. They still keep popping up. I know you moved away and stuff, but I'm talking about the communication stuff.
I cut all ties.
Just cut all ties?
I cut all ties. The only people I talk to are my friends from high school that went to college. They don't do drugs. They go out and travel. They have the same interests that I do. Anyone that I see, I don't use social media a lot, because I'm afraid that, I'm not afraid, but I just don't want to deal with those people. I don't have time for them. I don't really care if they're alive or dead. And that sounds really cold and callous, but I have priorities, and it's not them.
I commend you for taking that approach and dedicating yourself to your children. And this is a great profession in pharmacy, and wish you luck.
Thank you.
Victor Long. Ms. Benson, I want to ask you, it's been like a few years since you have been working in a pharmacy. So tell me how comfortable you'll be in taking a test in order to reinstate your license.
I would study, honestly. I know in CVS, even though I couldn't touch anything, like in Nevada, the laws were a little less stringent than they are out here. So I was able to observe in the pharmacy, and being the store manager, I actually did have a say what went on back there. And they did want all the managers to be very involved with the processes, the audits, the cleanliness, so every aspect. We also had to go back there, and if they were licensed, jump in there and fill or type or do the pickup. So if it's retail, I feel pretty comfortable just going through the CEs, looking up at the books. I would have to brush up on the laws because they have changed. But I feel comfortable that I can go back there and know what I'm doing and not make lots of mistakes, because I would ask first, am I doing this correct? Is this the right way? So I do feel very comfortable and confident that I can go back there.
And also, like in the past, you had that mindset thinking that even though your second half is not doing right, as long as I'm doing okay, it would bother me. Now, do you have a change of thought on this kind of preoccupation?
I do, because, like I said, right now, like for my kids, I will do anything for them. And if someone's well, my husband and I mean, we're happily married. He's the father of my 2 children. But if he were to start drinking heavily or want to dabble in substances, I don't have time for that. I really don't. You know, I can't put that in front of my kids. I don't want to put them in danger or just put it out there. I know what's out there and they're going to experience it, but at least not in my household.
Thank you. I know it's a hard lesson to learn, but at least
It is.
Let me just ask you, you mentioned you have a good support system. Who is your support system?
My parents, my husband's parents, the friends that I made at CVS, a lot of them are pharmacists, fellow store managers, you know, my friends that I made in Vegas, a lot of them are married to police officers, and, you know, just the other parents that I meet at my daughter's school.
And in the jobs you've held, including the store manager job you've held, did you ever have any discipline against you in your work?
At CVS, I was disciplined by my district manager for not following his micromanaging. To be honest, he and I butted heads a lot, and he was part of the reason why I did resign. But I was also very involved as far as the company goes. So he did discipline me for not following exactly what he wanted. And my comment to him was, well, I drive with the company once. So I'm going to continue doing that. And, you know, what you're asking me is extra on top of that. And I'm sorry, but you only pay me so much, and I got to oversee all of this.
And but you had access to things like cash and customer information, things like that?
Yes.
And was there ever any issue in any of that?
Oh, no. The only issue I ever had was I had a supervisor who was stealing. I mean, that was the only issue because I didn't pick up on it right away. So, but as far as me, I've never had an issue with my money or PCI or HIPAA violations.
I have 2 kids. One of them is 32 and one is 36. So I often see people your age. And I got to tell you, I'm sitting across the table from what I perceive to be a responsible young lady in law. And you admit to past and you want to make a better life for yourself and for your family. And you have my admiration for that. So
thank you.
Good luck to you.
Andrea served on the professional level. Just a comment that I commend you to put the outcome of yourself and your family first.
Thank you.
I just wanted, I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. Thank you. And I commend you to come here and testify, I think, in a compelling manner as to what you've done to rehabilitate yourself. And I admire what you're doing to be a good parent. So thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I have follow-up.
Yes, Mr. Wong.
Yeah, since you know, we feel that you did very well for yourself. But you still have those friends out there still continue doing the bad thing they're doing right now. But they're your friend. Some of them maybe is still your very close friend. So is it not a close friend? That, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that you know how to do it. You know how to get off of it. You know, so can you, if you can able to help some of the people, some of you consider friends, maybe you can steer them to the right direction. Maybe you can help them to get off those things.
To be honest, I tried to help someone, and it was a slap in my face because she did good for a few years. You know, I allowed her to live with my husband and I. She had a job that was really well. As far as I know, she still has her job, but I noticed that her activities were a little different. So my husband and I called her out on it, and she got very defensive. Unfortunately, some of her friends were using drugs, and she just decided, okay, well, it's just every once in a while. But I told her, I was like, no, you know.
You cannot help people, but they don't want to help themselves. So.
Right, and that's the thing. So I can't waste energy on that, to be honest. You know, I have to worry about my husband. He's got herniated discs and does heating and air conditioning in Vegas. So I got to worry about that and my kids and, you know, my health.
At least you try.
Anything else, Ms. Thomas?
One question, if the board in its discretion issued you a probationary license, would you be able to comply with the drug testing requirement that you'd have an expense associated with it?
Yes, I can.
That's a thing.
Anyone got any questions? So we will take the matter under submission at this time, and we will go off the record. We're off the record. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want another 5? No, let's go on. Oh, let's go on. All right.
So we have, for our next case is Mr. Allen. Is Mr. Allen here? Good afternoon.
Judge, one comment before you start.
Yes.
Don't want Mr. Allen to think anything different. I may stand up. Doesn't mean anything. My legs are so long and under these chairs for a while. So.
Absolutely. If anyone needs to do anything to be more comfortable, just let us know. Okay. So let's go ahead on the record. It is September 7th, 2018 at 2:46 p.m. in Los Angeles before the Board of Pharmacy in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Mr. Tutanka Allen and for a pharmacy technician license, OH case number 2018-090-141, pharmacy board number 4869. I'm Lori Perlman. I'm the administrative law judge sitting with the board this afternoon, and I will take appearances from the deputy.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the board. Desiree Tollender, Deputy Attorney General for the People, pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Okay, and would you say your name for the record, please?
Hello, good afternoon to the board. My name is Tutanka Allen.
Okay, so we have some documents, I believe, from the deputy that I will mark at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. The three documents would be Exhibit 1, the original petition packet with the accompanying documents. The second document would be Exhibit 2, certified copy of the default decision and order in this matter in accusation case number 4869. And third would be a photocopy of the agreement to electronic recording of hearings.
Thank you, Ms. Helmers. So I am marking as 1 for identification the petition packet, 2 for identification default decision and order, 3 for identification is the agreement to electronic recording. And Mr. Allen, unless you have objections, I'll go ahead and admit those at this time. Okay, 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. And did you want to make an opening today?
Yes, Your Honor. Very briefly, for the record, the history of this matter, the board filed an accusation against petitioner on November 4th, 2013, based on 2 felony convictions. On or about March 21st, 2013, petitioner was convicted of 1 felony count of multiple identifying information theft and 1 felony count of fraudulent computer access. The circumstances of these crimes were that in 2012, petitioner used his mother's credit cards and bank card to make unauthorized transactions and withdrawals. Effective June 20, 2014, petitioner's pharmacist technician registration was revoked by way of the default decision and order. Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of his registration today. I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for petitioner unless he would like to make an opening statement.
Were you interested in making an opening?
Yes, I will make up.
Okay, let me go ahead and swear you in first. So if you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. And I'll let you begin your opening.
I would like to thank the Board of Pharmacy for. I would like to thank the Board of Pharmacy for having me here. I'm here to get another opportunity to not only become a pharmacy technician again, but also to get the public's trust. Regained my mother's trust with the issue that was resolved. That case as well never actually went to court. That was a case that I was arrested, and then my mother and I went to the district attorney, and the case was dismissed. We cleared up everything. I do take full responsibility for that issue. For sure. Thank you. I'll be waiting for the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Whenever you're ready, Mr.
Stating that you did not suffer two convictions that you pled guilty in court to?
The two convictions are, I think the council has it incorrect. The two convictions are for when I was working at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. That was unauthorized access to a computer, and, as well as intent to defraud. So that's where I got my doctorate.
So you admit those two convictions?
I do admit those two convictions, correct.
And in your petition, you submitted some paperwork regarding your recent conviction that occurred after your license was revoked. Can you tell us about that?
The conviction happened in 2012 as well. So it was in the process of my license being revoked. I don't believe my license was actually revoked when that happened. That was, I had gotten into a car accident. I subsequently, I got into a car accident and used, my insurance wasn't valid at the time, car insurance wasn't valid at the time, and I called and made it valid incorrectly. So I was defrauding insurance. So I also did insurance fraud in regards to that. And I did 300 hours of community service there, and I got that misdemeanor expunged.
Your license was revoked in June of 2014, and the Penal Code Section 550, Subdivision B1 conviction occurred around September 16, 2015. Do you recall that?
September 16, 2015. Yes, I recall that. Yes, I recall that.
So that would have been after your license was revoked, correct?
Correct. However, the case started in 2012 during the process of revocation.
Could I mark, Your Honor, next in order a multi-page document? I have copies.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian.
Has Mr. Allen this
I think
So I'm going to mark as 4 for identification, a 3-page document that is a criminal case summary.
So you have a copy of what I've provided to the board.
Yes.
Can you show me where this case initiated in 2012?
It does say violation date, October 22nd, 2012, right?
So in the court proceedings, do you recall your arraignment in January of 2015?
Yes, I do.
And to be clear then, do you agree your conviction occurred in September of 2016?
Yes, my conviction did occur in 2016, misdemeanor insurance fraud, correct.
And the document you provided in your petition, which relates to the dismissal of this charge, that is something you want the court to consider, I mean, the board to consider that that charge has since been dismissed?
Yes, please, yes. I did 300 hours of community service for that case in particular, and I got it expunged. I showed remorse to the judge, and I actually, I would like to bring this up to the board as well. That case, they want it's usually, the DA doesn't look for that one for expungement. However, she saw that I did the community service hours in a prompt fashion, and I got that expunged. I got the case closed earlier than a year. So if you look at that case actually, I believe, I believe the case August 30th is when I came in. August 30th is when I came in to get that case. So from August 30th, 2016. So that was sooner than the year.
And I would admit Exhibit 4 at this time if there's no objection to Mr. Miller.
Yes, Your Honor.
4 is it?
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you have a copy of your petition packet, Mr. Allen?
Yes, I am.
Okay. On turning your page to a question to attention to page 2 of your petition.
Hold on. Excuse me. Okay, yes.
In answer to question number 15, have you ever had disciplinary action taken against your license in the state or any other state? You answered no.
Correct.
Why did you answer no?
Have you ever? Oh, that was totally incorrect. I answered no due to not knowing. I don't understand why I put no on there. I apologize. I don't understand why.
So it should be yes?
Yes, so it should be yes, correct.
In turn to your answers to questions number 16 and 17 on the type detachment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes.
Did you prepare that document?
Yes, I did.
And then the previous page, a letter dated January 2nd, 2018. Did you prepare that document?
Yes, I did.
In it, you state, I would like to provide you with proof of my change of mentality You also state also attached will be letters of recommendation from 2 licensed pharmacy technicians and 2 from citizens. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you typed in all capitals, I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true, correct?
That is correct. I would like to bring up to the board as well that that is correct. That is correct.
How many letters of recommendation did you submit in support of your petition?
I supported 4 letters of recommendation. I would like to state to the court, to the board, that the 4 letters of recommendation were, I had verbal authorization from those individuals to write and sign, and I have text messages and emails showing that proof. The case analyst also called each one of my references to verify that I was given authorization by each individual to write. During this process, the 2 pharmacy techs that gave me authorization, one is a traveling pharmacy tech. She, for about a year, back and forth, I kept on asking her, can you please write the letter for me? Can you please write the letter for me? Unfortunately, she was never able to. She said, just go ahead, Tat, just go ahead. That's what my friends call me. Go ahead, Tat, and write the letter. And that was one pharmacy tech. The other pharmacy tech as well okayed me to write the letter. He just never was able to write it for me. So he just said, oh, just write it for me. It's cool. If they call me, and I explained to them my situation. I explained to them. They fully understand why I lost my license as well. My license was revoked.
So you're admitting sitting here today that you actually wrote these 4 letters yourself?
I wrote those 4 letters myself. Yes, I did.
And did you sign their signatures as though they were signing them?
Yes, I did. Yes,
And did you do that under penalty of perjury? The last sentence of each.
Yes, I put that under penalty of perjury, but they authorized me to do so. They authorized me to do so, and I have verification with that.
Next in order, Your Honor, people would like to mark 2-page document. I'm handing a copy to Mr. Allen. Copy to each of the board members. This is a declaration under penalty of perjury by Inspector Catherine Sill.
Thank you.
Here's the original.
Okay. I'm going to mark as 5 for identification, a 2-page handwritten statement, California State Board of Pharmacy letter.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please take a moment, Mr. Allen, and look over this 2-page document?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do you see it that is Ms. Kelligan the one that you were identifying as the
Yes, the
pharmacy tech?
traveling pharmacy tech, correct.
And she is explained to the inspector when she was contacted to verify the truth of this letter of recommendation that she says she never wrote it, as she never saw it, and she did not sign it.
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Why did you submit it in the petition as a letter from Ms. Kelligan and only today come clean with the fact that it's not authored by her?
It's not just only today that I came clean. It's the matter of fact that the inspector called her and she called me and she stated that she told the inspector that she gave me that, as we spoke beforehand, like I did with all my references, that that she gave me permission. It says it right here. Tech Polygon stated she gave him, at the very last sentence, Tech Polygon stated she gave him permission to sign the letter on her behalf.
And then you submitted it as part of your petition
That is correct.
without clarifying that until today.
I would say that is correct as well. I left a message with the inspector if she had any further questions for me, but she didn't have any further questions for me, so I didn't see fit to contact her until today. I'm here before the board today to apply back for my technician license, and it was very difficult. It was a very arduous task to get the two technicians to write for me. I had them, I called them, I contacted them for over a year, and they never wrote it, never sent it to me, never. They just never had time. It was so inconvenient. However, I did get authorization. I have text messages and emails from both.
Can we turn your attention to the letter written by Mr. Edgar Manzano? It's in your petition packet as one of your letters of recommendation. The people would like to next mark another single-page document, Your Honor.
Okay, before we do that, I will admit 5 into evidence unless there's an objection from Mr. Miller.
No.
Okay, 5 is included. And I will mark as Exhibit 6, the document that you provided.
Oh.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. So 6 is a 1-page statement, again from California Board of Pharmacy, letterhead regarding the statement of Edgar, EDGAR, Aragon, ARAGON, Manzano, MANZANO.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Allen, could you please take a look at what
Yes.
the ALJ has marked as Exhibit 6? And tell me if you had a moment to read it.
Yes, I read it.
This is a declaration from Mr. Manzano under penalty of perjury. And he states in it that he did not authorize you to write a letter on his behalf. Do you see that?
Yes, I do see that.
What do you have to say about that?
Your Honor, I literally have text messages. I've spoke with Edgar. I don't understand. He just hasn't contacted me within a year, but I've literally spoke with Edgar, and he told me it's okay. It's okay to go ahead. But now I think maybe maybe when he got called, he didn't want to write the letter thereafter. But I literally have verification and authorization from Edgar stating that he authorized me to write a letter. I would not lie about that. I've got enough trouble about lying.
Do you have photocopies or screenshots or Facebook pages or anything that when you say you have evidence to prove that he authorized it that you could show us today?
Not at this time.
So those are the two professional recommendation letters that were required, and both were written by you, correct?
Correct.
So the other two that were written by citizens that are the exact same text with the exact same typos, do we have any way of verifying today that those were actually authorized by those two people?
Yes, by the case analyst. Case analyst Lupe Baltazar did contact both those public references as well.
I have Inspector Sill here today, Your Honor, that as an offer of proof, I would state that she would testify that at no time were they able to reach Mr. Sue, and that Ms. Carter did in fact state that she authorized Mr. Allen to write the letter on her behalf, but she has never seen it and she didn't sign it. But if we need to put Ms. Sill on to testify about the fact that Arnold Sue was never able to be contacted to verify whether he wrote it, then we could do that.
so could you spell the names that we're talking about? The individuals?
Arnold, Arnlod, last name Sue, S-U, and the other is Najah, Najah Carter.
So let me ask Mr. Allen, are you willing to stipulate to, agree to the fact that that's what the testimony would be if we had the Ms. Sill testify? Or do you want her to testify and do you want to ask her questions?
In regards to the two references, two additional public references?
Right.
Yes, without a doubt, yeah.
Yes, what are you saying yes?
Yes, I would agree that she hasn't been able to contact him, but both individuals were waiting for the for them to be called. As Najah, she answered, and also in this letter by Edgar, he says, "I probably would not run." Probably doesn't state that he didn't give me authorization.
Okay, so unless the board wants to hear from Ms. Sill, I think we have a factual agreement as to what she testified to. Okay.
Thank you. I do not have any more questions for Mr. Allen. Thank you.
Okay. Let me ask if the board wants to go around and ask some questions. And I'll start with Mr. Congress.
So I'm just trying to get a handle, and I'll direct them, I guess, to you, Mr. Allen. Just trying to get a handle on the convictions and the underlying conduct. So the conduct that relates to the multiple convictions relating to identifying information theft and then fraudulent computer access, what does that relate to? You said something about your time at a police sheriff station.
Yeah, I work for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department as a pharmacy technician in the Medical Bureau, and that's what the case is all about. I had access to inmates' information, and I did. When working graveyard, I had their actual. I printed out their not their medical records, but the actual address and name and social of 70 plus inmates. Okay. And I had them on my person through email. Excuse me, I had them on my email from work email to my home email. What I was going to use those was intent to defraud. I went through 26 hours of 1 hour sessions of lying and trustworthiness. That was court mandated. I also go to therapy every 3 months currently. That was really my dream job. I went from Walgreens to Kaiser to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and I worked there for approximately almost 2 years, and I unfortunately made that poor decision, and my decision-making skills and my judgment was very poor back then. It was really misguided ambition, and I really am remorseful for what I did. I was in a position of power with public information, and I abused that. And I was given a felony for those two unauthorized access and intent to defraud. And those felonies were wobblers. So after my community service, they were reduced December 31st, 2015, and then after that, I got my misdemeanors expunged.
I guess I appreciate that, Mr. Allen. Thank you for that. I just want to understand conduct relating to your mother's credit card.
That
Bank cards.
see that's where the council was incorrect. So while working at the sheriff's department, that issue with my mother that happened, that was arrested for, but never even brought to trial. My mother and the DA, my mother and myself went to the DA. She chose not to go forward with the
charge.
With the charge, right.
I would like to know a little bit more about that. I guess maybe that's not clear in the record. So, using your mother's credit card and bank cards, there was no formal charges brought.
Correct.
Ultimately.
Correct.
But in what connection were you using those?
And what connection? Oh, she gave me a card, and I misused it and I abused it, and I instead of using it for just let's say gas and miscellaneous things, I was also using it with my girlfriend and doing other things. So
And so then this, on all of this conduct of the two convictions relating to the use of the names and the intent to defraud,
Yes.
and your unauthorized use of your
Yeah.
mother's card, all happened between August 6th and October 27th, 2012.
No, it wasn't unauthorized. It doesn't say mother's card. It says unauthorized use or okay.
I'm just asking about the dates.
Yeah.
Was that all was that all in 2012 in August and October?
The DA that was for that August 12th to October. That was the DA saying me accumulating the inmate records.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the same time, in Exhibit 4, this insurance fraud
Mhm.
that you admitted to, that also was on the same October 22nd, 2012. That was the violation, right? That's very close to the dates on your other convictions. Was
Correct.
this all happening?
This was all
at the same
happening,
time?
and I was going through this type of situation where I was depressed, and my situation, I was working for the sheriff, but they had me in graveyard. And it just was very depressing. The whole atmosphere of working in a jail was very depressing, and I made the decision, for fast money, and just a very poor decision on my part, because that took a year. That job took a year to get. It took a year, and they had to. Obviously, I had to have. I was of high moral standing for me to get that job. They checked with my neighbors. They checked with family members. I had to have references and such like that. So the only things I've been charged with were the two issues at the sheriff's, which was the unauthorized, which was BA 408 and 408786, and the other one BA 429790.
Okay, as I sit here, so the two convictions relate to using information that you're not supposed to use and misrepresenting it with an intent to defraud. You also had the unauthorized use of your mother's card, although there was not a charge brought.
Correct.
You also defrauded an insurance company at the same time. So, and I understand those are in the past, and you're here now, and that's 6 years later. But as you're submitting to us as the board a set of documents to show your rehabilitation and your ability to get your license again,
Correct.
one of the requirements is to provide letters of recommendation.
I understand that.
And there has been, I think, some trouble in the record here that I think it's conclusively been shown that you wrote and signed those letters, and in some instances those people are saying under penalty of perjury they never would have signed that. So do you understand, what is your understanding of signing something under penalty of perjury?
I totally understand that is it can be considered perjury. Artie Polygon literally told me to write it. Edgar as well told me, "Oh, it's cool. Go ahead and write it." I never had access to actual letters from them, but they gave me the authorization to write the letters.
Yes,
And
I think
verification.
what I'm trying to understand is in 6 years, you obviously are remorseful for the acts that you've done, and it sounds that's your testimony today. In those 6 years, I'm trying to glean what you've learned in the process of the bad acts that you had committed.
Mhm.
And one of those things, the thread that binds those prior convictions and that conduct was you were misrepresenting things.
Yeah.
And so do you understand that putting someone's signature or writing a letter without their permission is a misrepresentation?
Oh,
do
yes,
you
I do.
understand that?
Yes, I do.
When you were doing that with these letters, did you understand that that was something improper?
I didn't do them until I didn't even consider doing them without verification and without authorization from them. That's why I'm.
So your assumption is that because you had a written text or verbal authorization, that it was sufficient for you to affix their signature and put their name on a document, and you think that's okay?
No, that's not okay.
Hi, Maria Serpa, professional member. My question is also about the letters,
Mhm.
in that you stated at the time you thought that this would be okay to put in writing what they had verbalized to you.
Correct.
And then later, or at the same time, you decided to sign them also.
I didn't want to even sign them, but my mother said you can't turn them in without signing them. They have to be signed. There's nothing. So I didn't want to sign them at all, but I was recommended to. So that was probably that was a poor decision, without a doubt.
Well, and the crux of the question is that each of the signatures show different handwriting.
Yeah.
So you purposely adjusted your handwriting.
No,
for
I had
each
my mother. I had my mother assist me in signing.
So you signed more than one, and she signed more than one. I don't see any of the two that look the same.
Yeah.
So you purposely adjusted the signatures to make them look different.
I wouldn't necessarily say I purposely did that. No.
Oh, thank you. That's fine.
I'm Stan Weiser, and I have no questions for you.
Victor Law. I want to ask you, in the letter here, it's mentioned something about sexual harassment.
Mhm.
Can you tell us something about that case?
Yes, and at Walgreens, I was dating a coworker, and all of it, unfortunately, me and her, we didn't. It didn't work out, and during that time at Walgreens with her, I was working at the sheriff as well, so I was only working per diem at Walgreens at that time. I went ahead and was called in one day, and the inspector at Walgreens actually brought me into the office and was like, "Do you know this? Tanisha is saying that you're sexually harassing her." I didn't know anything of it. I didn't understand anything of it, and I tried to fight the case. However, it took her side. But I was dating that individual.
But she filed a claim against
Yes, she did file a claim against me.
And here is also mentioned something about that you were with some wrong crowd. So what's that crowd that you were mixing with at that time?
It was just a girlfriend. I was really just dating my girlfriend, and I was, and I, to be quite frank with you, I just want to take responsibility for it. I put wrong crowd and stuff like that, but I'm responsible for my own actions, my own judgments, and
Are you still mixing with the same crowd?
no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I currently I'm going to school at Savio, LA, which is a coding boot camp. I've got my record expunged, cleared. It was quite the humbling experience to go from working at the sheriff to working at Goodwill, because Goodwill was the only place that would allow me to work with a felony, and then my felonies got reduced to a misdemeanor, but I still couldn't work anywhere. So I'm here. I want the opportunity to regain the public's trust. I regained my mother's trust, who was the most important person to me, and I would like the opportunity. That's all I'm here for. I would love to.
question. Ricardo Sanchez, public defender. When you're working at the sheriff's department, you were getting some of the information on some of the inmates.
That's correct.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the fraud part of it? Were you looking at their jackets? Were you passing it on to other inmates? Or
No.
what was going on?
No. Anytime I was at the computer, and anytime a prescription was called or something else that I had, I was able to see an inmate's profile, meaning the whole, like what they were in jail for, what they did, and stuff like that. So when I saw that, the poor mistake I was making, I was thinking, okay, well, I have access to this information that I could use to file taxes. So that's what I actually, yes, that's actually what I got. That's what the intent of the fraud part is.
So you filed part of their taxes?
No, I never actually did. I only had them on my person. So
their taxes?
No, their profiles, meaning their information. Yeah, profiles being name, address, social. When I was working in the sheriff, I had access to almost just countless. I could just type in a name and see.
Yeah, no, I think you have access.
Yeah.
I've been in law enforcement for 28 years. I'm still a state investigator, and I deal a lot with perjury too, documents. But I'm concerned with that information. Just having it is one thing. Doing the overt act. I mean, what did you actually do? It had to have been something that you did with that information.
Right. No. Actually, nothing was actually done. So, in 2012, the actual process, what happened was, when I got into an issue with my mom, okay, then I was arrested. Okay, when you're arrested, you automatically are put on administrative leave with the sheriff. So during that time frame, they checked my emails, and I was sending profiles from my my email, my work email to my home email, which was very so it was intent to defraud. I never actually had. I was convicted of having 70 profiles with intent to defraud, and stuff like that. And I really, to be quite frank with you, I didn't know what I was going to do. My mind was just not correct. I needed therapy, and I got those therapy sessions, as you can see in my paperwork.
Dr. Wong, I don't have
Ryan Brooks, public member. I do have a question or two. One, thank you for coming here today. I know it's not always easy coming from the board and cameras and people watching, so I appreciate the position that you're in today.
Yeah.
You said that you have proof, going back to the letters.
Yes.
You said that you do have proof that in writing, text, emails, or some sort of electronic proof.
Yes.
That they give you authorization.
Yes.
And is there a reason why you don't have that with you today? Or if it was a text message, I'm assuming it's still on your phone.
But because yes, it would. I would have to get it printed out. But it's no problem. I have that. I have the text messages, and I have emails from Edgar and Artie. Artie specifically, I was under the impression that the case analyst, the case inspector, would contact those individuals, and they would go ahead and explain that they authorized me to do so.
So you submitted.
So I have one letter that's authorization, one paperwork that's saying it's authorized, that she authorized me, but Edgar is saying that he didn't authorize me.
But what I'm hearing is you tell me that you have an email, you just didn't have printed out today.
Correct.
And did you provide that email to the inspector?
No, I have not. She never called me. I actually, Artie called me and told me, I spoke with her, and she said that all the letters look the same and stuff like that. And I explained to her the situation. And I explained to her that nobody would write the letters for me.
So I trust me that I'm a very busy individual, and I'm I have people ghostwrite things. It happens in normal course of business. Not under these types of cases, obviously. The letters of recommendation for my son to go or daughter to go to high school or things of that nature. So I understand the practice. I even understand someone saying, "Yeah, I just don't have time. You sign for me."
Correct.
But when you're here for the Board of Pharmacy, as part of the requirements to have 4 letters signed, it would seem that you would have proof that you asked them. I mean, I'm just not seeing that. I'm having a hard time reconciling. I mean, one of the letters from the inspector says, "Oh yeah, I gave him permission," and so that tells me you actually went through the process of calling people. So
Yes.
you're not making that up. So I get it. So and I appreciate that. But is there a way you can provide any proof today to this board prior to making the decision? Show an email. I don't know if it's not in the record. Can be printed out. Do something so we can validate what you're saying.
Yes, there is. I would ask the board to. I would ask the board to give me the opportunity to do so. I don't know what time it would have to be up to the judge or myself, but I can give verification.
How much time would you need to get something like that to the board?
I'm assuming you just need a printer.
Correct.
That's my working assumption is.
I would just need, if possible, 72 hours. It'll be no problem. But I can get the printer and I can print it out. But I have all the text messages from Edgar and email, Edgar and Artie. But I would just need to get that printed out.
Do you have access to it on a phone that you might have here or anything of that nature?
I have access on a phone for Artie and the text messages from Edgar. They're here as well, but I don't have it. I don't have them. It goes so far back because it's been over a year since I asked them.
But you just type in the name, it'll pop up to the top.
Do you want us? Should we take a break of a few minutes to see if? Did you want to do that or?
That's up to the.
Is this our last?
So do you think you could retrieve that from your phone?
I believe so. Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
And if you think you do, we'll take a 5 minutes break and I just look into it.
Yeah, I mean, it should be pretty quick to type in the name and it'll come up,
Yeah.
right?
5 to 10 minutes, okay?
Okay,
Let's take a
let's
break.
do that then. Okay, we're off the record. I'll do that.
Board is back in session. The Honorable Lori Perlman presides, Your Honor.
Okay, so we've had a short break to see if Mr. Allen is able to find the emails that he thought he might be able to get. And I know he indicated correctly, Mr. Allen, that there was one that you were able to find and it's been sent over for printing. I don't know the status of that, but I don't know who else might know.
She's working on it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And while we're back on the record, and I have Exhibit 6 in front of me, which was the declaration from Mr. Manzano, I would admit 6 into evidence unless Mr. Allen has a legal objection to that.
Unfortunately, I do not, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm going to admit 6 at this time. And so you had indicated you weren't able to find the document.
No, and I tried contacting him right now. Nothing.
All right. So, yes, Ms. Mulliner.
Your Honor, since the issue of contacts with Ms. Kelly Gond, which I understand something's being printed, and Mr. Manzano have come into issue, I do have a screenshot of text from Mr. Allen to ostensibly Mr. Manzano, which I could have Inspector Sill testify about how she took a screenshot when she interviewed Mr. Allen of his actual phone.
Okay.
And
or maybe we could have a stipulation to the basis for this and the board could just look at the actual document. So you need the investigator to give background
or I could do an offer of proof.
Sure.
Why do you do that?
That Ms. Sill would testify that yes, she did in fact take pictures of Mr. Allen's attempts to text Mr. Manzano, but that this text showed that there was no reply at any time by Mr. Manzano, and that this corresponds to the last statement of Exhibit 6 by Mr. Manzano, where he says, when asked by Mr. Allen via Facebook Messenger back in January 2018 to use me as a reference, I did not reply to him. I gave him no permission to use me as a reference or write a letter of recommendation. And I have copies of these screenshots that show no reply by Mr. Manzano. They were January 2nd. There's also one that says, thank you in advance, Edgar, just as a reference, January 5th. And that text is after the letter was ostensibly written. So he was thanking Mr. Manzano in advance for something that Mr. Allen dated as having occurred before.
Mr. Allen, may I ask a follow-up question on
Yes.
that? Mr. Allen,
Yes.
how do you know Mr. Manzano?
He's my coworker at Walgreens, and I also have, I should have also, I contacted him.
Well, for how long did you work together?
6 years.
When's the last prior to the text communication that Counselor just mentioned, when was the last time you communicated with him?
I communicated with him. I see here a text message from here. Tatanka, what up? Yeah, sure. This is June 22nd, 2000, and I can't tell the year. I know it's not 2015. It's 2000, and it's got to be 2016. And see, I asked him, can I use him as a reference for a job here? And he says, Tatanka, what up? Yeah, sure. So I can get that printed out as well. I'm sorry.
For a job or
for a job reference or for this particular?
It's not. I contacted him in between in regards to this, a call. I have a phone call with him and speaking with him about this. And I told him my whole situation, and he explained to me that he said yeah, sure. He said yeah, sure. I'm 100% sure. I don't. It was over the phone. It was over the phone. My only text message I have is a yeah, sure from something else.
I have follow-up questions too. So from 2016 to now, who do you befriend with? Don't you have any other people you work with, you go out with to testify or write something for you?
Pharmacy techs, I didn't have.
Not even pharmacy tech as friends or people in church you go to or people you associate with.
Yeah, I also submitted in my packet a letter from my therapist.
Besides your
life adjustment.
Besides your therapist, who do you befriend with?
I have several friends.
Your girlfriend?
Yeah, my girlfriend, my other friends from school, and stuff like that as well.
Okay, so I'm passing down the copy of the screenshot again from Mr. Allen's phone. That's communication between him and Artie, A-R-D-I-E. And what is her last name again?
Keligon.
Could you spell that?
K-E-L-I-G-O-N-D.
Did you see this?
No, I didn't. There's an extra copy.
There should be, and I think they said they were fixed. All right, I'll mark this as Exhibit 7 for identification, and
She said she'll send a letter. She didn't say write it for her.
In the and with the thumbs up, and you see the thumbs up after I put the.
It's going to let on your behalf.
it seems like in the middle of a sentence it says it will only, you know, what it said after that.
Oh yes, about that. have records of phone calls with Edgar as well, but is the okay. Oh, okay. Thank you for your help in regards to listening to my story, and thank you for allowing me to write a letter on your behalf. I cannot thank you enough for assisting me in the thumbs up. That can attest to her letter, her statement saying that she okayed me. And then she also said, I also asked her, did she receive a call from the Board of Pharmacy? She said yes. Send me a copy of the letter in case they ask. This was July 18th, 2014. 2007, this year, 2018.
Thank you. Okay.
And I'm sorry, it said it will only, what was the rest of that sentence?
It looks like it's two different texts because he says July. This is October 2nd, 2017. From these texts that we have on paper.
Is it the bond? It's October 12th, 2017. It's cut off in the middle of the sentence.
October 12th?
Yeah, October 12th, 2017.
Okay, good afternoon, Artie. Okay, good afternoon, Artie. May I submit the letter on your behalf? It will only be 3 sentences long, very short, stating you are aware of my crime and disciplinary actions and what I have done since. I will give you a copy of it through email. And then I sent it through email here.
And then that thumbs up is from her?
Yes.
And Ms. Connors, I think that's consistent, isn't it, with what the investigator learned when she made the call?
Yes, but that she didn't verify that she ever received it in an email.
Okay, but that she had authorized.
Yes.
Okay.
That's at page 2. She asked if she had a copy of the emails, and she checked, and she searched her email. She did not find the email from Mr. Allen.
Did anyone else have any questions?
I would like to mark the other text too.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes. A copy has been provided to Mr. Allen.
Okay, so I'm going to mark as 8 for identification, a 1-page document that is also a screenshot from Mr. Allen's phone. Can you tell me what I'm looking at? I'll ask again Ms. Tolliners, I guess. This was from the investigator, is that right?
Yes, Inspector Inspector Sill took a photograph of Mr. Allen's phone when he pulled up text messages that were ostensibly to Mr. Edgar Manzano. And this is the screenshot, and it's enlarged and photocopied for you. Excuse me, Mr. Manzano's phone. I have it backwards. And then it shows that Mr. Manzano did not respond to Mr. Allen's request. And that corresponds to Exhibit 6 in the last sentence where Mr. Manzano testified that he did not reply to him. He did not give him permission to use the
What's
letter or
this
to write it.
thumbs up at the very bottom? On the right. No, the one on the right. The very bottom.
I don't know what that is.
Give you
It's
a
from
slide.
it looks like it's from Mr. Allen.
No, the one on the left is, but the one down on the right. Yeah. Was that just a symbol?
I think that's just the generic
Okay,
bottom
just a
of the
generic
screen
symbol.
that can be used
Okay.
to enter more information.
And Mr.
Well,
Allen,
then
this,
isn't this the same thing?
No, because it's highlighted.
You're talking about the little, yeah.
this 323 number that's at the
This
top.
and this one.
Yes, that is my number.
That is your
That is my number. This is
Because
through
it's got like
Facebook
blue.
Messenger. I contacted him from his phone number. I have his phone number and everything to that extent. He might have became apprehensive of I don't know when, but he authorized. He told me that he would okay me, but maybe after the inspector contacted him, he just didn't okay me, which is it came to a shock to me. To be quite frank with you, it's a shock to me that he didn't just okay me like he has in countless other things. During this process of losing my license and having a record, I've worked at certain jobs and I've had him give me recommendations. I've had other people give me recommendations, and I've had no issues with recommendations. Only when I needed somebody to write a letter, it was very arduous. No one would write a letter for me. Everyone seemed like too busy. I don't believe that's something in regards to my character. They all are my friends, and I wouldn't have asked anybody that wouldn't have wrote it for me. I gave my numbers and as well to let the court know that I was unaware of Edgar not responding. I gave my phone number. I gave his phone number and name to the inspector as well, or in my packet as well. So I had no clue that he wouldn't authorize me as well. And Arnold said, "Yeah, have him call me." Arnold said, "Have him call me." He's the public person that the inspector claims didn't respond. He said, "Yeah, have him call me." And I'm under the impression now that he was never, they never contacted him. So in no way was I trying to defraud the board. In no way was I trying to lie, because I've learned my lesson from what I've done in the past. Losing that job as a pharmacy technician at the Sheriff's Department was something that changed my life, and I currently am working at Gate Gourmet through the airport, because now I have a clean record, and I also am going to school at Saviola for coding boot camp. So I'm a transformed individual. I would not try to defraud or get myself in any more trouble, Your Honor.
I'm going to admit 7 and 8 unless anyone has a legal objection. You okay with that? Okay, so 7 and 8 are admitted at this time. Any other questions from folks?
No.
Okay. Ms. Tolliver, any additional questions for Mr. Allen?
You do understand, Mr. Allen, that this screenshot was taken after Inspector Sill was investigating your letter of recommendation, which had already been written. She didn't prevent him from writing the letter of recommendation because you had already submitted the letter of recommendation.
I understand that.
Thank you. No more questions.
Okay, so unless there's anything else, I believe the matter will be taken under submission at this time. And I thank everyone, and we are off the record.
Thank you.
Thank you, and you are free to go. At this point, I believe we'll go into closed session.
Yes, the board will go into closed session, so we will reconvene after the closed session to adjourn, so I guess you all are excused right now.
You adjourn, right? Or you coming back?
We'll reconvene after the closed session. We're going to go into closed session.
Just to adjourn, right?
Yes.
Right, you won't be webcasted.
Yeah, okay, so thank you.